How would you sum up what you do in a sentence or two?
I help lower middle market business owners get their lives back.
And how so?
Help them create self-managing businesses. I help them bring up their leadership team.
Paint me a picture of what it looks like for a business owner that is not using some form of EOS.
I think it's chaos, and they're stuck in the whirlwind.
So Keith Seebeck,
Yes.
and then founder of Eskaygee.
Yep. I pronounce it Eskaygee.
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 That's kind of cooler. I like that.
Yeah.
So Keith, just for the audience listening of founders, how would you sum up what you do in a sentence or two?
I help lower middle market business owners get their lives back.
And how so?
Help them create self-managing businesses. I help them bring up their leadership team so that's not as the business isn't as dependent on them. Because that's what I find, oftentimes you talk to business owners and they've owned the business for 10 years. They got a sales team of 5 or 10 people, but when you ask them, they're like, I'm still responsible for 80% of the sales on there. So we try to get that balance back for these guys.
Right. We're definitely going to dive into that. And I know the system or the roadmap that you use is not EOS, but it's Pinnacle.
Correct.
Which is kind of a spin-off or a different version of EOS. I think for those listening right now, some founders might use EOS or know what that is. Maybe some use Pinnacle. But for those that don't know, can you break down EOS first, and then we'll get into some Pinnacle stuff?
Sure. And I'm probably as good a person to ask because I was in the EOS world for almost 7-8 years or so. I was in the integrator role. So a lot of people have read Traction. They're familiar with EOS. But in the EOS world, you have your visionary business owner. You have your integrator, which oftentimes is your COO, your president, et cetera. That's the role that I played. So basically, there's different ways of doing EOS. You either self-implement EOS, you hire an implementer to work with, and I've worked in all those things. So if there's an implementer there, what happens is they come in every quarter, they kind of help get things going, et cetera. But when they're gone, someone has to internally run EOS, and that's what I did right there. So like I said, I spent about 7 years doing either self-implementing as a fractional integrator, and then we also worked with an implementer right there. So I spent a number of years doing that.
For those that have no clue what EOS is, Entrepreneur Operating System is what it stands for.
Correct.
How would you break it down in terms of what it really is and why is it helpful for entrepreneurs or founders?
Well, it's a business operating system, and oftentimes people are like, "Is that a software?" So, it's
Right.
not. There's no software. It's where the systems, the energy, the focus goes in your organization to get you where you're going right there. So we always say at Pinnacle, like if you're not seeing the results you want, it's probably a good time to take a look at your business operating system. And everybody has one, right? You might not use EOS or Pinnacle or something else out there, but you have a way of doing business, your systems, your processes, how you hold people accountable, et cetera. We're just formalizing it within a business operating system.
Can you paint me a picture of what it looks like for a business owner that is not using some form of EOS or Pinnacle? Like, what does their business world and life look like?
I think it's chaos.
Yeah.
What I typically find is those people, I mean, obviously, you're going to have people that are just really good. They're sharp. They're on top of everybody right there. But for the most part, I find most lower middle market business owners, it's chaos. And they're stuck in the whirlwind. And the typical, they're working in the business. They're not working on the business. And, I always say, like, everybody's meeting at the end of the year, setting goals for the following year. Everybody does a really good job. We have this meeting, we set all our goals for the next year, but 2 months into the following year, I think they kind of realize they're like, we're not going to hit any of these things right here, or a very small percentage of them right there. And I think that's what a lot of people are experiencing out there.
Yeah. Why do you think it is that founders can't remove themselves from the business and they're very dependent on them being in there and they sort of create themselves as the bottleneck?
It's a good question, but I think, I don't know if you ever read the E-Myth by chance.
No.
I think the E-Myth, kind of the premise behind that is that a lot of people who are business owners, they came up through the organization, so to speak, right? And maybe they finally figured, hey, I'm going to do this on my own, but they still do all the jobs that they did before. And now in addition to doing that, now they got bookkeeping, they got accountability, they're hiring, they're firing stuff. I just think they're overwhelmed, and they don't realize how important it is to have a solid team around them, or, Another thing I find is, a lot of times these guys have started their businesses. Maybe they started with their 2 college roommates, et cetera. And they were great getting the business off the ground, maybe getting up to a certain point, maybe that $5 million mark. But come to the realization that team isn't the same team that's going to get you past that $5 million mark up to $50 million mark. And it's kind of the same thing. There's kind of 2 key points. I think at $5 million, you kind of hit that, and the same at 50. So you kind of need to take a look at your team and maybe readjust to make sure if you want to grow past that.
And why do you think that is? What is the team at, scaling up to maybe a couple million or a few million? What do they not have that the team you need past that would have?
Yeah, it's just different skill sets, et cetera. And I think that, people, founders and business owners, they get tied to their leadership teams, and there's a loyalty, et cetera.
They were
and stuff
there day one. It's like,
yeah, exactly. They're from day one. But I think if they were really honest with themselves, they'd be like, you know what, Bob, who's been my CFO or whatever, my bookkeeper no longer is going to help me. I'd be like, I need a CFO now, or I need a fractional CFO or something like that. Or my person in sales, they're kind of an order taker over the years. I mean, sales is where you see most of it right there, I think. You get somebody who's been sitting in a position forever. They get pretty good relationships, and they kind of got the owner by the short ones almost. Like if they were to leave, the business owner's like, oh my God, what would I do? But sometimes it's the best decision they might ever make right there. So,
There's a little bit of fear with letting go of that person or parting ways because they know the business so well, they know the customer so well.
Exactly.
It's easier just to keep them in the role versus making a hard move.
That's exactly
that might benefit you long term.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So to go back to that question, though, why do you think owners and founders can't remove themselves from the business? Like, what do you think? I mean, you dive in. Like, what is going on at the core of that situation? Because I do think that's very common from what I hear too. And I struggled with that at a certain point too, even though we're a smaller business.
Yeah.
You just get to a point where you're like, I shouldn't be doing all these different things. If I am, we're just not going to grow.
Yeah. I think it comes down to they're afraid to delegate and they're afraid to let go. And I think sometimes they just need a little helping hand from someone from the outside or like a guy like myself to be like, it's okay. Things are going to be okay. We surround you with the right people. Let's go through some of the things that you can delegate to somebody else where it's not going to have a huge impact. And start slow. Like start with a couple things, right? But you got to start somewhere. I think that's the key. You got to start delegating. And you need the right people around you to do that you trust and that it's going to get done.
What is the founder worried about happening if they delegate some of the work to employees or team members instead of doing it themselves, though?
I think it's the initial handoff because they probably figure by the time I train Sally over here to do this, I could do this myself. And I think they just kind of get caught in that little cycle and they never relinquish control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You train and coach and develop your team.
Yeah.
It takes more work on the front end, right? It takes a lot more time and effort and energy and patience and really skills too.
Yeah.
And so short term, it kind of sets you back a little bit. But long term, it catapults you so farther ahead because now that team is doing things on their own. They're critically thinking, they're executing, they're getting results, and you're not the bottleneck as the founder anymore.
That's exactly
But I think you hit on a great point, which is a lot of founders, and I think we all do this. I know I've done this many times where I'm like, I could teach someone how to do this or coach them through this, but I could also just do it myself in like 5 minutes because I've done it the last 6 years, like clockwork, like in my sleep, you know? And so sometimes it's that slowing down to say, I could do this myself. But does that really help the business and the team and the long-term growth of where we want to go?
Yep.
And I think a lot of times the answer is no.
Yeah.
You know?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I think that's a big one. And I think what you kind of hit on too is just fear of, if I give this to someone else, what if they don't do a good enough job? You know, if I give this client task that I would normally do to a team member now, what if they drop the ball and what if they fail? Yeah.
Well, especially if it's your baby. I mean, it's your baby that you've built up for 10, 20 years. You probably have most of the really big relationships, et cetera.
Right.
Yeah. And I often go back to the sales situation, and I always think like that business owner is oftentimes your best salesperson, right? And he's spending a lot of time hitting the streets, talking to people, et cetera. But what if you set up a situation where somebody at a lower level can maintain the basic things right there, or put you in front of people only when it's time to close deals there. You just get that other noise out of the way there.
That's right.
So,
what do you say to the business owner that is like, I'm worried if I do delegate this, they'll drop the ball, they'll make a mistake. What if we lose a customer? What do you say to that business owner?
At first I say, have you ever tried it before? do you trust this person? Why don't you trust them? If you don't trust them, maybe you don't have the right person in that position right there. So maybe that's a bigger issue right there. So, but anything just to get them thinking, like, do I have the right people around me? And again, it kind of goes back to what I said. You know, the people that you founded the business with, they might not be the same team that's going to get you to the next phase. And if you want to be a $5 million company for the rest of your career and you want to be involved in everything, that's fine. But if you want to grow and if you want things to change, like I always say, you know, like who calls me or when do they call me? They call me when the pain of the same is greater than the pain of change, right?
There you go.
And they don't want to keep beating their head against the wall and doing the same. I could do it again just like last year, but I'm going to get the same results. And if I'm happy with those results, great. But if I aspire to do more than that, it's time to look at things. Right?
Yeah. One of the biggest lessons I've learned from building a business and a team around it is even if you have the right people, you still got to be okay with them failing and dropping the ball and missing the mark. And it's like, and if you think about how we learned as founders and entrepreneurs, how did we learn? We learned by doing in repetitions and learning from others, of course, but we also learned because we did make mistakes and we did drop the ball. And that was like, man, that was a painful moment. I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to learn. I'm going to put a system in place to avoid that. And I think like for some reason as founders and owners, we almost don't let our team have that same flexibility to make mistakes and fail.
Yeah. I have a saying, I love this. It's like one problem, two solutions. Like I'm ready to delegate to people, but when you come to me, you can't just come to me and tell you have a problem if I'm the business owner. You got to come to me with a couple of solutions so that so I know you gave it some thought, because I'm not going to do your job for you right there. Yeah. And another thing I love this article. I just call it the monkey article. It's like a Harvard Business Review article from maybe, 15, 20 years ago. But the whole premise is everybody walks around the organization with all these monkeys on their back. And as a business owner, the last thing you want to do is have one of your employees walk in the door and give their problem to you, because now you own it. Because by the end of the day, you got 15 monkeys on your back right there. And now you're the guy solving all the problems. And you got to deal with that. So I think, like I said, I just call it the monkey article from Harvard Business Review. I would highly recommend anybody in a small business read that.
Yeah. That's great, man. I love that. And if you want your team to be self-starters and to get shit done, when they come to you with problems, you have to facilitate a solution. Hey, what do you think you should do? Have you thought this through? What made you decide this? What routes do you think you could go? And what would happen if you went down this versus that? And that's how you get people to think critically versus they just know it's a conditioned thing now where if you don't do that, they just come to the owner and say, solve this problem. Here's the problem. Here's the challenge.
Exactly. And I think it's a culture thing. Like if you can ingrain that in your culture,
100%.
Then I, as an employee, know like, and it only takes one or two times. I'm the business owner, and an employee walks into me with a problem, and the culture is, hey, one problem, two solutions. It's like, do you have two solutions for me? Nope. Well, come back when you do, because there's nothing for us to talk about. And it's kind of a culture thing you set right there.
That's the best when that happens, when you have a new person come in, and the people that are already there are ingraining that in their mind. And so you don't even have to have that. They're like, I know when I approach somebody, I have to do this, this, and this, right? 100% it's a culture thing, for sure. Values, culture,
I'm a huge believer in the culture stuff in an organization. And at the end of the day, like, we should really define your culture. And like I've been in organizations in the past where, the culture, they got all these things on the walls and stuff like that. And as employees, it's all bullshit. I mean, it's just some aspirational things. We don't live that.
Right.
But when you're truly living it, I mean, you should truly be able to, you should be hiring people based on core values. You should be firing them, rewarding them, and reviewing them based on those right there.
Yeah.
And you should be able to stop anybody in your organization at any time and say, what are our core values, right?
Right.
I know as a Pinnacle guide, when I'm meeting with my leadership teams for the first time, one of the exercises I do is I kind of ask, tell them, you guys have core values, right? Oh yeah. Okay. Well, how about this? Let's all, as leaders, get out our pens and pencils. No one talk to each other, and I want you to write down the core values of your organization right there. And then when they're done, I want to hear them come back. They're all different.
Really?
Half the leaders don't know. If there's 4 core values, they know 2 of them. You see people grabbing their phones, trying to do it, et cetera, and stuff. So like, it's a big deal. And it changes organizations.
Outside of that, how would you assess, or how do you assess a company's culture? Because I feel like it's one of those things. It's like, it's kind of like it's not, it's somewhat hard to like put on paper sometimes, but like it's there. So what would be some of the first things you would look at? Maybe you'd ask the core values question, but what might be some other things that you would assess? Do they have a good culture or not, or whatever it might be?
I would go back to just what I said before. I would say like, okay, so tell me what your core values are, but do you hire people based on core values? When you have a candidate come in, do you tell them what your core values are, and do you say, are you comfortable living up to those right there? Do you fire based on that? Because a lot of people might say they are, but will they really fire somebody based on that? Do you do reviews based on that? And are you going to reward them based on that? I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Those 4 criteria will tell me if they're truly living their core values. Yeah.
So you were an EOS guy.
Yeah.
And then you scrapped it for
Correct.
Pinnacle.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what made you make that change.
Yeah. So, again, as an EOS integrator, very different than an implementer, right?
Okay,
So I'm inside the organizations, and I had every intention of being an EOS implementer, to be honest with you. I went through the process, got vetted out, was all set to do it, and somebody in my network just said, hey, before you make the jump, maybe you should talk to the guys at Pinnacle. And I really had heard of them. I didn't know much about them.
Because you were thinking about going out on your own at that point.
As an
right?
EOS implementer, yeah. Because what I wanted to do is, I loved working inside organization. I loved working with EOS, et cetera. But I wanted to teach this to other organizations. I just feel like there's so much value in business operations. I wanted to help other business owners right there. So anyways, I talked to the founder and owner of Pinnacle. I made a couple calls. That afternoon, I was on the phone with Greg Cleary, who owns Pinnacle, et cetera. And 5 minutes in, I was just like, this is what I have been looking for my whole career.
But what made you, did you explore it at all with EOS then? Like, did you go down that rabbit hole? Couldn't you have done the similar thing with the EOS?
I did. I fully was vetted and had a franchise agreement sitting in front of me to join EOS.
And someone said, hey, just look at Pinnacle before you do it.
Just go talk to this before they do it right there. Yeah.
Okay, so what was the big thing that made you change?
It was the customization. And I'll tell you in a nutshell, and this is what I experienced with EOS. But believe me, it's a great platform. I mean, any business, just be on something. That's all I can say.
Right.
Whether it's EOS or Pinnacle or whatever, you can't really go wrong.
Have structure is what you're saying, basically. Yeah.
Have a structure, have a system. Don't just wing it out there, right? And work with somebody. I think that's the key, because like I said, I worked self-implementing business operating system. I worked with an implementer, et cetera. The difference when you have someone coming in from the outside holding you accountable quarterly, there's nothing compared to it. I think self-implementing is really, really tough and frustrating for most people. I just think have somebody come in right there. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, just why you went to Pinnacle versus EOS.
Yeah. When I was introduced to some of the tools within Pinnacle, I said to myself, I would have killed to have some of these tools when I was in my previous life inside organizations, because there were some things that I just found really frustrating, and it just never got over the hump on it, et cetera. And some of the tools instantly solved it. And that's why they formed Pinnacle. They were all ex-EOS people, and I think they were just like, how do we make this better? Yeah. And that's what they did.
What was it like going out on your own?
It's scary.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's really scary.
Especially having a career for a good amount of time, and then all of a sudden saying, "All right, I'm going to kind of."
Exactly.
And of course, you've got some resources and branding behind Pinnacle. Of course, there's some foundation there. Yeah. But it's still you're kind of going out.
Oh yeah.
On your own.
Well, and I knew going into it, regardless if I were to go the EOS route or the Pinnacle route. I mean, it's a license agreement or a franchise you're buying into, but I know. It's not like they're passing leads to you left and right there. No. This is a lot of hard work. Yes. What it's going to be right there. Yeah. So. I just knew long term this is what I wanted to do. I've always wanted to be out on my own, and the timing was just right for it. Yeah. And I want to do this until I retire. Yeah. And I can. And more importantly, I love it. I love talking to business owners, and I am fascinated. Every single one of them, they have a unique story and how they got there and what they're dealing with, et cetera. And I just love helping them. And, a lot of times I'll meet with business owners who are prospects, et cetera, and they're never going to work with me, Pinnacle, together, everything. But there's plenty of other things I can help them with. I mean, I'm a solution guy. So, and talking with someone, they might have 5 things they're challenged with. So I'm more than happy to bring somebody with my centers of influence in and help people, et cetera. Sure. And I love doing that. You
mentioned retirement. Yeah. As a business owner, how do you think about retirement? Like, what does that look like for you? I'm interested.
Well, for starters, I'd say it's I want to work for a long time. Because I love what I'm doing. Same. And I think this is more of a lifestyle business where I can it's not like I'm punching a clock 8 to 5 every day, et cetera.
Or trying to scale it to $100 million
exactly.
Sell it or something.
Yeah, I know. But I do plan, I am working on my exit strategy on how I build this into a business that I can sell or pass on to somebody eventually. So that's
I want to talk about that later.
Yeah. But retirement, I mean, I want to do this until I'm no longer valuable to people right there. And when I lose that curiosity and that energy and that passion for it, I mean, that's when it's time to stop. But right now, I can't imagine that.
Do you think you'd ever just stop, though, and not do any business, or would you always do some level of...
I don't think so.
I don't think so either,
I
right?
need to do stuff.
Me too.
Yeah.
The whole, like, people talking about retirement, like selling their business or just retiring in general from corporate or whatever they do, and then I'm going to play golf all day, and I'm doing this. And for some people, that's amazing. And if that's your thing, do your thing, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I don't know. I just want to feel like I'm building something, and I'm fulfilled by some level of work that I'm doing. But I think when you get to that stage of, like, quote, retirement... Maybe it's a winded down version. Maybe it's I've built something enough now where I can be very selective with the projects or work I do or the clients I take on, and having the freedom and flexibility there to do something you're truly passionate about. Maybe it's another side business or side hustle or something like that, or maybe it's like full-time podcasting because you love that, right? And you turn that into a mini business, then that's your thing now. So it's like, it's just, I just think there's a lot of creative ways to kind of do it.
Yeah, I agree. And the beauty of like Pinnacle, like why I chose that, et cetera, is like, at capacity for me, it's like 15 or 20 clients.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, I don't need 200 clients sitting out there. So I can manage that in the way we meet with people, et cetera. I'm busy for little stretches of time, but I have a lot of downtime as well to do either other projects I'm working on or just relax, et cetera. So, but that's what I'm aiming for.
I love it.
Yeah.
So let's help some business owners build a more profitable business while getting the chaos out of their life, kind of gaining control back in their life. I looked at the Pinnacle system, people, purpose, playbooks, performance, profit.
Correct.
Is that right? Yeah. Cool. I'd love to maybe dive into this, and maybe we could get a little bit tactical, be kind of cool too. Yeah. But where would you start? Does it start with people? Does it start with purpose? Is there a start and end? Is it, maybe let's dive into this a little bit, and I'll probably have some questions for you. But I'm looking for maybe some tactical steps that people can listen to and go, wow, I'm not doing that. I should go do that in my business to grow my business.
Sure. So for starters, it always starts with people. I mean, you may be in the widget business. You may be in the financial, you are in the people business. So at the end of the day, that's really where we start. So I'll kind of go through those, what they are right here. So people, you get the right people, you put them in the right seats, but important that they're following your vision as a business owner. Once you do that, right, then you provide them with a crystal clear strategy. Where's the company going? How are we going to get there? By when are we going to get there, et cetera? Then you give them playbooks that are scalable so you can start delivering your product consistently out there. And then you manage, mentor, you motivate, you hold people accountable, you help them perform at their highest level possible. You can do all those 4 things, the profits are going to take care of themselves. And you're going to almost have a nest egg of sorts. So you can go out and buy those A players that everybody talks about, or you can weather a downturn better than your competitors, et cetera. You can do that acquisition, et cetera. But it's kind of key. You do those 4 things well, profits kind of take care of themselves. Yeah.
So let's dive into some of those. So you mentioned vision. Right. So now it starts with people and whatnot, making sure you have the right people. But you mentioned vision. I think it's a big one. And how do you really create a compelling vision for your team as a business owner? Like, what does that look like? Because I think some people have in their mind, maybe I have one in my mind right now that I'm like, does my team really really, is this what gets them up and gets them going? And should it get people up and get them going? I mean, they have their own personal motivations, obviously, their career, their personal life, financial stuff. But what does a good vision in your mind look like?
Yeah. Well, for starters, it comes from the visionary business owner. I mean, that's where it has to start. Like, it's not something you go have HR go, pull the team out there.
ChatGPT, create me a vision for...
Exactly, It has to come from the business owner. And here's why I think it's so important. Like, think about this. Like, you're a young engineer, right, coming out of school, and you get an offer from SpaceX where their vision is, like, to build the tools to take us to Mars and beyond the solar system, et cetera. Versus going to work for Boeing, where you're just, the culture's kind of, and we've all been reading things about Boeing. I'm like, you look at those 2 visions sitting right there, that's a no-brainer for a young kid. I mean, depending on what their aspirations are, but I bet most young kids would be like, I want to build things to go to Mars right there. So
now, do you think the psychology of that, I love what you just said, I completely agree. Do you think the psychology of that is the people that are taking those jobs or wanting to work for those companies with that vision, that they want to feel fulfilled and they want to feel proud to talk about the work that they do?
Hell yeah.
Is that really what it's about, or is there anything else missing there that maybe motivates them to choose that vision over one doesn't really have a strong vision?
It's hard to say, but I think that's a part of it. Because I think people want to brag to their friends. They want to tell people why you're going there. Again, that SpaceX versus Boeing. I mean, think about the conversations those kids are having with their peers.
That's what I'm saying.
Versus other. I mean, who wouldn't
we're going
get
to Mars, and they're like, we're putting some plane parts together.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm putting bolt A on bolt B on a wing over here. So yeah.
Which, by the way, how have our planes not gotten drastically better over the last like 60 years? I mean,
I don't know.
It's really kind of the same model, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you just took Elon Musk,
Yeah.
and you throw him in the commercial airliner business,
Yeah.
and he's building a company,
Yeah.
I guarantee within 10, 15, 20 years, it's a dramatically different plane.
Yeah, probably doesn't
it's
look
faster,
like it.
it's
Yeah.
probably more efficient, it's
Yeah.
probably ran on electric. Like,
Yeah, probably got one wing, just the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, wasn't NASA basically dead? And then Elon came in and built SpaceX and now revived the whole space program. It's like,
it's unbelievable. Everybody wants to work there.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they got a vision. You're right.
Yeah.
But how does that like? That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You got some big vision, or Apple, or something like that, or Nike, or whatever it is. But how does it work for like the staffing and recruiting company or the consulting firm, where it's like they're not going to Mars, but they're still doing something that's impactful. Like, how do you get that level of?
I think it's the passion of the business owner. I mean, if their vision is, if they're clear about why they're in business and what got them there, et cetera, and they're portraying that to people, and like if I'm a business owner, right, and I'm passionate about my vision for the business, when people come in and interview, like I should be telling them, like, this is our vision, this is what we're here for. Is this something you're on board with? I mean, I think you got to find people that believe in your vision, and once you do, like, again, just putting the right people in the right seats, that's only part of it. They got to be following your vision as a business owner, so that they're behind you right there. So
let's test this out. I'm going to give you my vision for impacts marketing.
All right.
And I want you to grade it and tell me and maybe give you some feedback. Okay.
All right.
So, and I haven't gone through this in a while, so it might be a little rough. But our vision is we want to empower companies. We see a world where 7 to 8 figure and even solo businesses they're empowered to do their own content in marketing. They're empowered to, they don't need an agency. They don't have to rely on some other third-party company. They can actually tell their own story.
Okay.
They can build their brand. They can communicate their message and attract their customers, attract talent, and they can do it internally. And we just see a world where more companies they're empowered to do it themselves. They don't have to feel like they have to go to some other company to do it for them. And so it's kind of like not putting marketing companies out of business, but it's like the opposite of a marketing agency, right? So when you come to our company, you talk to us, it's not going to Mars, but there's something there that's unique that we're passionate about. Like, screw the marketing agencies. You don't need them. You can do it yourself. We want to empower you to tell your story and communicate your message to the world and make the impact, start the podcast, record videos from your smartphone. Like that's our whole thing. Sounds like a longer version of that, but I could tighten that up into a couple sentences maybe. But how would you look at that vision?
So is the vision more about like you're offering people an opportunity to take back control over that thing and to take that over, right? Versus working with all these other third parties, et cetera. They can kind of do it on their own and self-implement.
I think from a client-facing standpoint, it's empowering them to build their brand, create content, tell their story, without having to rely on some other company that maybe won't tell it the right way, right?
Yeah.
So it feels like good to have control of your brand.
Yeah.
From an employee standpoint, it's like, hey, we're disrupting the market. It's kind of like liquid death. Like we're throwing a wrench into the modern system of like marketing agency, hire one, they'll do all your content for you, they'll post it, they'll write the copy. We're like, no. You can do this stuff yourself. So there's a little bit of like rebellion there. From an internal standpoint, you got to be like, that sounds cool. I kind of like that you're disrupting the marketplace.
So how's that working out for you with your people that work for you? I mean, do they believe in it? And
Yeah.
And how many besides yourself? Who else is part of your organization?
So internally, we've got one W-2 employee, Cal. We got Dee, who's our operations lead. She's in the Philippines.
Okay.
We've got Vince, who's kind of moving into a more of a editor. I'd say overseas talent coordinator, working with editors, content managers overseas. And then we've got a couple people on like the podcast team, a couple editors, more contractor type company or type workers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So to me, the way I envision is like, it looks like you kind of, because I think it's hard to create things from scratch, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're a small business. Like you got so many balls flying in there. It's hard to do that. But if somebody can help you get the essence of it on paper or do it, then you can build upon it right there. And it sounds like that's probably where you really come into play right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going through it right now myself. I mean, I've been on my own for a year. I mean, I'm a one-man show. I mean, I do everything right there. So I get what people go through, and it's hard and frustrating, and thank God for ChatGPT. I mean, that's what I'd say right now. Yeah.
I do want to ask you about that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
So if we get more about like playbooks, you know, what is the training, coaching, development look like, and what's missing from most companies right now where their team is not being developed the way they should be?
Well, for starters, playbooks are pretty much non-existent, is what I found. You ask people, and they'll just be like, oh, yeah, we did something a while ago. Well, where are they? Well, they're in a share folder somewhere. I don't know when they've been updated. So number one, people generally don't have them. If they do have them, are they being followed? And then the third question you ask is, how do you know? I mean, it's one thing to ask somebody, hey, are you found the playbooks right there? Oh, sure, I do it all the time. I'm like, well, how do we know? And there are tools out there today that are unbelievable. One of them is called Trainual. That's one of our partners at Pinnacle, whatever. I mean, you can put new playbooks in Trainual. You can assign people to read them. You know when they went through them, et cetera. But I think the most important thing is somebody has to own each playbook, right? So like, you got playbooks for marketing, sales, et cetera. Someone has to own it, and someone has to review that on a regular basis and stress test it. Have one of your people at a new person like there go through this. Tell me, are you able to get through from start to finish and do this right here? And if not, we modify it. So what I recommend for companies is like let's say you have, 30 playbooks in your organization, right? Every quarter, take 4 or 5 of them and just test them and do that every year and just update them and put them in a place where they're going to get used right there. And it's really interesting. One of my clients just last week, we have a partner called Process Optimizer. So they'll come in and help you optimize your processes, right? And so we have a tool at Pinnacle where you could follow it and self do it and document all your processes, et cetera. And we're not talking about standard operating procedures, SOPs that are this thick. I'm talking about what are the 20 or 30 bullet points that capture 80% of the essence of what that role provides right there, right? So I always say to my clients, like, I have a tool from Pinnacle for you. You could do this on your own, no problem, right? And now I've been in organizations where I've been asked to document processes, right? And here's what I found. Everybody's top priority, get them all documented, et cetera. We're going to do this year, et cetera. And then all of a sudden it's a couple months later, 2 months later, no one's documented things. It's 3-4 months. Maybe they're done in a year or 9 months right there. So one of the reasons why this process optimizer is pretty cool is there's a cost to it, right? And it's a little bit of a premium, but they'll come in and they'll send a 6 Sigma black belt in. They'll spend 2 days with your team.
Ninja processes, Ninja.
But they'll spend 2 days with you all day.
Wow.
9 days later, they're all delivered. They're done.
Wow.
So I always say to people, like, you could do this on your own. Sure, it might take you 3, 4, 6 months. It's probably going to take you longer than you think it's going to do. But versus this cost to do this right here, knowing it's done in 9 days, is that worth it to you? And for some companies, it's like, hell yeah, that's worth it to me for that expense right there. Versus 3 months, 6 months, maybe it's never done right there. And now they're documented. So yeah.
I think it's one of those things that it's kind of like we talked about earlier. We're coaching and developing people. Yeah. It's like you kind of know you should have a process and SOPs in place. But then it's like, but then it takes time to do that, so we don't do it. So then the process doesn't get better. But if we were to stop and just do the system and redo the SOPs and stuff, it would make our lives a lot easier. But it's a longer term solution than just short term. Let's just go because we know it. But then someone new comes in, they're like, I don't know it.
Well, it's interesting. Like, obviously, there's risk at the front end because you're not training people right, but there's a ton of risk on the back end. You got people that have been with your organizations for years. You've never documented your processes, and they do an early retirement, and they're out the door. You're screwed.
I don't know if it's weird or not, but I always think about that stuff. I always think about, like, if someone left, could someone else step in and do we have the right things in place? Documentation, SOPs, processes. I try to make it as foolproof as possible. One, because it allows us just to operate more efficiently, more effectively, and serve customers better. But two, I do think about that because people just leave. They move on. They do other things. They move. They whatever.
Exactly.
And so it's like, do you not want to be able to have someone else come in and make it pretty seamless for them to transition, or do you want it to have it? I mean, it'd be a hot mess if you didn't have any of that stuff.
I agree. And it's not the way you approach it. It's not like, hey, we're afraid you're going to leave. We want all this documented. I mean, you should be, once you do that, you should be able, that allows you to do some other things in the organization. We're not so reliant on you right there. So, I mean, I always think about like the IT guy in organizations. Like in a lot of small companies, they have one IT guy. That guy owns a place. That guy could shut that place down if you get that guy ticked off about this, he could destroy your business overnight with a push of a button.
I don't want to raise.
Server erased, gone.
So I'm not getting the raise.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
How do you feel about meetings
Meetings?
Yeah, internally, external, like, because I think some people have a lot of meetings and maybe there's a lot of wasted time there. And other companies don't have a lot at all. How do you feel about that?
I think most meetings suck. And I often ask this when I'm with leadership teams. This is how I press it with them. So I get a group of 7 or 8 people around, and I say, let's picture this scenario. You guys have a weekly leadership team meeting, right? Yep, we do. What if I could stand outside that meeting, the door, when you're done right there, and I could poll each of you as you come out, just individually, no one else is anything, and I say on a scale of 1 to 10, 0 means that was the biggest waste of time I've spent in a long time, or number 10, I'm energized, that was the best meeting I ever had. What would you rank it? And almost across the board, and this is regardless of what operating system we're talking about, they're 2s and 3s and 4s.
Jeez.
They're horrible. And people, I've sat in them, and I'm just like, this is a waste of time. And
so why are they doing it though?
They think you're supposed to meet. I mean, just yeah. But that's one of the first things that we change is have an agenda, have a reason for meeting, make it meaningful, hold people accountable, etc. This is what this is where I see Pinnacle, EOS, whatever it is. The magic to me happens. It's with the leadership team, and it's in the weekly meeting. You nail that weekly leadership team meeting, you're going to change that business right there. And here's what's happened. When I first come in, before we put systems in place and really get things down, what happens is you got a leadership team sitting around. And remember, we've all set our goals for the year. We got great idea. We're going to hit this goal, do this, and et cetera. And if you're going around the room, typically what happens is you got the business owner, and he'll go around the room and just say, hey, where are you with your project? Are they on track or off track, et cetera? And what I have found in the past is that every project is on track for about 8 weeks into a quarter. And then about week number 8 or 9, all of a sudden like, oh yeah, that one's kind of off track. Oh, and that one is too. And now all of a sudden you had 15 goals you're supposed to get done for the month, for the quarter. And 10 of them are never going to be finished right there, right? And it's because no one's holding each other accountable. And what happens is the business owner, I kind of say it's like, he's kind of the bad guy. We're going around the room. Bob over here is in sales. It's been 3 weeks in a row where Bob hasn't hit his activity levels to generate sales, right? So here's what happens. Gets to Bob, and they say, okay, Bob, you're on track or off track? I'm off track this week. Everybody's looking at the business owner saying, what is he or she going to do? Are they going to hold Bob accountable and get his ass in gear right there? Or are they going to let Bob slide for another week? Because if the owner lets Bob slide for another week right there, he just sent a message to that whole leadership team that nobody's going to be held accountable. And here's what I often find is, everybody knows the business owner. They're part of a Vistage group, or they've gone to some seminar or whatever. And what happens? They go to their groups, they come back, they got all these ideas, et cetera, and stuff, and they want to implement them. And people just, and they're like, if we just wait this out, like 3 weeks after 3 weeks, he's just going to let it go. He'll be on to the next thing right there. That happens all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. So
it's the new flavor.
It's
right?
the new flavor of the day. Yeah. And just, I just think the meetings are super important, and to have that agenda. And what my goal always is I want to take the bad guy. I want to take the business owner out of being the bad guy. I want the peers to hold each other accountable.
That's what I was going to get. That's what I was going to ask you next.
That's what it is.
Because in my mind, when you're running through that scenario as the business owner, and Bob says, I missed Mark.
Yep.
Maybe I'd ask the question, how many times in a row have you missed now?
Yep.
And it's 3 weeks.
Yep.
And then I'd kind of pause.
Yep.
And look around the room.
Yep.
And I'd kind of just wait.
Yep.
For someone to say something. What's your plan to not miss it next week, right?
Yeah.
And say, love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for speaking up.
Yep.
Because that's the culture, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Because to your point, it's like the leader's got to lead the way, but if everything's always like, what's the leader going to do? Then it's like, what's the culture? It's kind of all come down to that person.
Yeah.
But man, that's such a good point you make.
Yeah.
So what do great meetings look like inside of a business? What are some things that like someone could go implement next week with their meeting?
I'll tell you. And remember in the beginning of this, I said there were some tools within Pinnacle that I would have killed to have. One of them is within this meeting, and it's called it's a rock sheet. I mean, it's basically
I've heard of rocks. Right?
Yeah. So rocks are things. What are you going to prioritize for the next 90 days? Like they're your little sprints on your way to your goals, right there. But there is a tool called a rock sheet, and what we do is, before the quarter even starts, everybody goes and develops their rocks, right? But the leadership team is going to kind of sign off on them for everybody else. And within that rock is, I want to know in one sentence, what are you going to accomplish this quarter right there? Number 2, how do I know when it's done? Like, describe for me. So I don't want to just ask you, here's your rock done? Yep. I want to know what that means right there.
Right.
Then I want to know, why is this even a priority this quarter? Why couldn't this rock be pushed to the next quarter? Why couldn't this be pushed to someone that works for you down a level, etc.? So remember, this is leadership team we're talking about right there. Then I want to know, what are some milestones? How am I going to know if the quarter's 90 days long? At day 30, what are you going to have done so that I know we're on track to hit this right there? And then finally, the last thing is, what other resources are going to be necessary? So here's a great example. I got a sales guy or leader. He's got a huge, massive goal right for the quarter right there. But if his lead generation is dependent on marketing to give qualified leads to him, marketing better damn well be aware of what his goal is, and we better all know, because otherwise you got a built-in excuse right there, right? But what I have found is, again, everybody's got these rock sheets. We make sure why they're even belong in this leadership team meeting. And here's the difference, right? Instead of asking someone, are you on track or off track for the quarter? And if you're off track, maybe we drop it down to an issue list and we talk about it. Here's what we do at Pinnacle. Every single week, starting week 1 of the quarter, you have 3 rocks, or whatever the first one is. And my question to you is, Alex, what did you do last week, in the last 7 days, to advance that rock? Hopefully you got a good answer. Oh, I did this nice. Okay, great. Now, we're going to meet next Monday as well, 7 days from now. What are you going to do between now and then to advance that rock? And you give an answer. So now you're accountable to the rest of your peers for next week, because you just verbally said what you're going to do right there. And then the last question is, if you're having problems, how can we help? But we are identifying that week 1 of the quarter. We're not waiting 8 weeks into the quarter to find out you're having a problem with your rock right there. Watch your rocks completion rate go from about 40% up to 80% within 90 days. That to me, that's one of the most powerful tools. Again, if I had that tool in my past life, game changer.
Wow. I appreciate you sharing that, because I feel like people listening now can think about how they're running their meetings. And maybe if they want to work with you a little closer, they can have you come in and do some work with them. But yeah, that's powerful stuff, man. I feel like a lot of it comes down to, in business and maybe even in life and relationships, clear expectation and responsibilities, and follow through and accountability. If you just nail that part right, and it's good goals, good rocks, whatever it might be, and you really follow through with people, and accountability, coaching, development as needed, get them to think critically, and you're accomplishing a lot more than most.
Yeah, you hold people accountable. What a difference maker right there.
Not easy to do sometimes for people.
Yeah, but what I find really interesting, that sheet I'm talking about, it's just, think about this, like, instead of me just making up my goal for the quarter, I have to run it through my peers. My peers, we're all holding each other accountable. Every week we meet together. We all know what we're trying to do, and we all want to help each other. It's not about holding you accountable so you can knock it down. I want to help you do that, right? So,
Why do you think it's so hard for people to hold other people accountable?
I think it comes down to what we call healthy conflict. Like I've said in meetings, but I mean, this was, in the last couple of years, I've said in leadership team meetings where I've talked to people prior to the meeting who are like, I'm so tired of this, or I got this issue right there. And that meeting starts, and that person might as well not even exist. They sit in the back. They don't say anything right there. So I think it's a culture. You need to have a culture of healthy conflict. And that doesn't mean you're having fistfights in a conference room or whatever, but
healthy is the key word there.
But questioning people, right? And again, Pinnacle, one of the differences we do, just like EOS, we would rank every meeting, right? You rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, et cetera. And it's funny because people game the system. No matter what you set up, people are always gaming the system. So people quickly learn in the EOS world, like if you don't score an 8 or better, you have to give a reason. Like, so you go around the room and it's like, I gave it a 6. Well, you have to give a reason on why this meeting was a 6, and you got to kind of talk about it right there. So quickly, if you have an unhealthy team environment where no one wants to speak up, guess what every rating of every meeting is? 8. It's an 8.
Right.
It's
good.
It's hilarious.
No,
it's an 8. Yeah. No problems right there.
We're good.
So at Pinnacle, one of the things we do is we not only rate the meeting, but we say, yes or no, did we have healthy team conflict within this meeting today? And if Sally sat in the corner and didn't say a word right there, we didn't. So what's going on? Sally, come on, let's talk about this right there. So,
I think a lot has to do with humans want to be liked. And I think when we hold people accountable and we have healthy conflict, even though it is healthy, there's still that I'm going to confront Keith about something that he didn't do. Keith's going to think I'm an asshole,
Yeah.
or he's going to think differently, Mary. He's going to think, why are you calling me out, bro?
Yep.
But in reality, I'm doing it because I believe in that approach, and I want you to do better, and I want us as a team to accomplish our goals.
Exactly.
And we don't get there if we don't do that
That's
stuff.
exactly right, yeah. And it kind of goes back to what I said before. I'm like, if you're perfectly content being a $5 million company and you don't want to grow, that's fine. But if you want to grow to 10 or 50 million, you need to create that environment and that team of growth, et cetera.
Right.
And what a difference it is being held accountable by your peers than even your business owner right there. Because remember what I said, like that business owner comes off as kind of the bad guy.
Yeah.
Right? And now when your peers are holding you accountable, it's amazing what you get done.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you do it as there might be some solo founders, entrepreneurs listen to this, running a solo business. How do you think about like rocks and your meetings and that kind of stuff? If it's just you, do you still implement some of that stuff and hold yourself accountable, or how does that work?
I do. Yeah. I have my own, I set my own quarterly meetings, et cetera. I set my goals for the quarter and I hold myself accountable. I mean, some people will have our peer groups. You know what I mean? That's the other thing to do right there. Or like an accountability buddy. Could be somebody in a totally different industry or something like that, but just is willing to hold you accountable right there.
Yeah.
I know some people I got people who I get an email every week. They're like, hey, these are my goals for the year, and I'm going to send you an email to hold myself accountable. I mean, that's great. I don't read them after a couple of weeks, but I, if that's what gets you motivated, whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the ability to have a conversation with yourself too, a healthy conversation with yourself. I do that all the time. You probably do too. I think a lot of people do. Is sometimes I'll just sit and think. I'm driving in the car, I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm like, Alex, what are you really doing right now? Yeah. Like, what are you really focused on? Should this be a priority? Should this be why are you pushing this off again? Where do you need to spend your time right now that would make the most sense for the business and your life?
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. I have toyed and played around with different ways to manage my day for years. And I know there's softwares and things like that.
Yeah.
I've never, every time I go back, I have pencil and paper, not pencil and paper, but I have like a Excel spreadsheet that I've developed over the years. So and every Sunday I print it out for the week and I put all my meetings on there. I try to block my time out so I don't miss anything. I try to prioritize things, etc. And this goes back, this is years ago when I was doing some sales consulting for somebody, and the owner's like, what do you got going on today? I'm like, fuck, I got a list of things this big. And he goes, give me that list. And he goes, first of all, he says, prioritize them 1 to 10 or 20 or whatever. And I did that. He goes, give me the list. And they took the first 3 and he ripped it in half. He's like, there you go. There's your priority for the first 3. Forget about all those other ones right there. Just get the important stuff done, right?
So good.
I don't know if you've ever read the book Eat That Frog or whatever. But
No.
it's Brian Tracy. It's highly recommended. It's like pick the most uncomfortable, most important thing that you have to do today and get it done first. And you be amazed at what the rest of your day is like.
Because if you don't, you never do the hard stuff at the end of the day.
Exactly.
It's just like, I'll do it tomorrow,
Exactly.
right? If you do the hard stuff first, the rest of the day is kind of easy.
Exactly, yeah.
You know? Yeah.
It's like, obviously, you're working out and stuff like that. Like, I've always been a morning workout person.
Mm-hmm.
And my rationalization for that is, like, there is no other time in the day that I control. It's the only time. And I might have to get up earlier and earlier to accomplish it, but that to me that's precious. No phones are ringing. There's nothing else. You just got to get her done.
Yeah.
Eat that frog.
You mentioned ChatGPT and AI earlier.
Yeah.
How do you see AI disrupting consulting, coaching, mentoring? Because, what's to stop someone in any industry from just being like, you know what, instead of doing EOS or Pinnacle or working with impacts, I'm just going to ChatGPT everything or look everything up and print all these guides and frameworks on how to run meetings. And how do you see that changing the business over the next 5 to 10 years?
In my world, in the Pinnacle and the EOS world, I don't see it having much of an impact because I've tried to self-implement.
Is that you being a little biased though, being in it?
Well, I wasn't in it before too.
Just in consulting and coaching though. Is that you being like, it's not going to change. It can't, or what do you think? Or do you think that's your honest opinion?
I think it's my honest opinion because I think it's because I've been in companies, I've watched people try to self-implement these things on their own. And there may be the small percentage where it works, but I guarantee it takes a really strong leader to make that happen right there. And most people aren't. And
you're on it there.
I think there's something about having that third party come in and hold kind of hold people accountable.
Yep.
And I'll give you another example.
That's, by the way, that's our jobs. So that's why we don't do marketing for companies.
Yeah.
We come in and help them build it, the culture, the performance
Exactly.
around it, how to do it the right way.
Yep.
That's hard to do on your own. You kind of need someone there to develop those habits and stuff.
It really is, yeah. And I'll just give you another example. Why I think, like, regardless of what it is, to have a guide, have an EOS implementer, is oftentimes these business owners, they're on an island. They have no one to talk to. I mean, hopefully they're in a Vistage peer group or something like that. But a lot of them are just, they're afraid to talk to their wife because they don't want them to know that the business is going in the shitter. They don't want to talk to their VPs, et cetera, because they want them they want to be confident, et cetera. So who do they talk to, so to speak? And I've seen business owners, like, they need someone else to hold them accountable right there. And I've seen leadership teams totally change because at the end of the day, it's the founder and they got a leadership team. And they may say, hey, I value your opinion. I'm going to take you into account when we make decisions right here. But at the end of the day, it's their business. They're going to make whatever decisions they want right there.
Right.
But there's something about having that third party where they're accountable to somebody else. And I think it gives the leadership team a little bit of, it kind of helps bring them together and elevates them because they know that that person is accountable to somebody else as well. And you're a little bit more valuable in the picture right there.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we all know if you're going to exit your business someday, the value isn't you as a business owner that's leaving. The value is the leadership team.
Yes.
So that's just by making that investment in someone like myself or a system out there, I think that shows a lot to your leadership team that they're serious about this and they're investing in this for the long run, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What jobs do you think will be disrupted by AI the most over the next 5 to 10 years?
Jobs disrupted by AI over the next 5 to 10 years.
Because, and real quick, I think you hit on something really important that I think, and I've been working with my team on this stuff as a group, we've been working on it, is if you can coach and lead and develop people and create change in organization, that to me seems like it'd be tougher for AI to do versus if you create templates and we edit videos, we write copy, we do things that kind of a machine could start doing pretty easily and already is in a lot of ways. That's the traditional marketing agency model. That's why I think ours is different and disruptive and probably longer term more successful because a lot of these companies have tools now at their disposal. So it's about, but how do you create a culture around content and people telling, what story are you telling? And how do you get that out to the public? And how do you, if someone didn't create the right piece of content, how do you have that conversation with them? But I think those coaching, developing people, leadership, I think those are the skills that to really lean on in the future, especially with AI coming in here.
I would think so too. I mean, I kind of come from an M&A background where we did a lot of we were research. Like we're looking we're looking for businesses that private equity could come and buy. That research, it was super manual. I mean, I can't tell you the hours they spent on that. And I've seen AI come in, they can take something that took a team 8 hours and get it down to an hour.
Right.
And they're going to get even better at that. So I think researchers, people who are doing analysts, that, to handle that kind of stuff, that's pretty scary from an AI perspective, I think. But, I also believe that you need to adjust to it. And I think if you work alongside of AI, you're in a good spot right there. So, but embrace it and figure out how to use it. That's all I'd say. If you don't put your head in the sand like an ostrich and pretend that it's not there because it's going to eat, it's going to eat you alive.
Yes, for sure. Yep. I'm talking to a guy on the show next, actually, here in like 45 minutes. He built autonomous lawnmowers, like the big ones.
Oh,
and they just go by themselves. And so it's like, I'm excited to talk to him about this stuff because it's like, where does that put landscapers and how does it change the industry and what jobs are disrupted by that? But there's no doubt there's humanoid robotics that are here. They're in factories, they're going to be in homes, they're already folding laundry and shit like that. Like, it's going to change. And so you got to think about, start thinking to your point, don't put your head in the sand. Oh, I'm good. It's not going to change. It is going to change. It's not going to eliminate us maybe, but hopefully not.
It's funny. I went to a robotics show at downtown Chicago. This was several years ago, but I can remember there was this one display or whatever where this robot there was like all these blocks on the floor or whatever, and it's just showing how fast it could pick up all these blocks and stack them in this thing. I mean, it was like
lightning,
100 blocks in like 60 seconds. I mean, it was unbelievable. It's just like, whoa, our pickers when they get that picking thing down in the warehouses. Oh my God.
Exactly. And I'm sure it's probably not too far away. You mentioned exiting earlier too. What's the plan if you're a solo business owner, or maybe do you plan on getting more people on the team? What's your kind of path to
for
exit?
myself? Yeah, I would like to find a way to have some folks kind of work under me, develop them, et cetera.
Cool.
And maybe be more I'm the visionary, I get the story out there and I just generate leads and I have other people maybe deliver on the product. But
that means you got to do a lot of content.
Yeah, I would have to do a lot of content.
Or at least in-person stuff too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Creating the demand for the business and then being able to hand it down to the people. Would that be 1099 people or W-2, or how do you see that?
Well, right now, I think 1099 people makes the most sense. I mean, just, as soon as you add people to the equation, there's just a lot that goes along with it. But I think at the end of the day, and this is funny, like when I went out on my own, one of the challenges that I found, and I remember talking to my peers, other people, and I was like, what are you gonna do for health insurance? I have a wife, I have 3 kids, like I'm going to go off on my own. Then all of a sudden I got a Cobra, before I even do anything, I got a $2,000 nut. I got a cover just for that.
Yeah.
So I wish someone would figure out the health insurance for entrepreneurs. And I'm shocked.
It's a shame too.
I'm shocked that no one has figured something out right there.
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
There should be a pool where we can all get together.
That's what I'm thinking. Because it's in numbers. That's what the insurance companies want to see. I mean, if you pooled enough people together, I can't believe they can't put something together.
Why could all the entrepreneurs in the United States not act like a big corporation?
Exactly. Create a big association, or I don't know what it is.
Create a systematic healthcare pool for us, and we can all put in. I've never really thought it like that, but that's such a good point, man. We're kind of starting businesses, employing people at times, coming up with new ideas, new products and services, and it's like, you're in the gutter.
Exactly.
Just like you don't even matter.
Yeah.
But if you're an employee at some big company that probably pays 0 in taxes, you get the best healthcare.
It's unbelievable.
Doesn't make any
fucking sense.
Sense.
And another rabbit hole, but why is health insurance tied to your job anyways? I mean,
right.
I don't understand that.
But
that's a whole other podcast series sitting out there.
Because why can't you just group it in maybe by location or some other factors? Like
anything, just something different than what it is.
That is such a good point, man.
Yeah.
So you have 3 daughters, right?
Yeah.
What's your advice to them? They're in college.
2 out of college, 1 in college. Yeah.
Yeah. When they ask you for career advice or just business or maybe life advice in general, what's kind of some of the things that you tell them?
For starters, I want them all to be their own person. So I just want them to be happy and do what they do. But the thing I stress to them is I want to see grit out of them. I want them to embrace something and just go all in, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that drives me crazy when people ask you questions that you could easily find on your own right there.
Yes.
Just be self-sufficient, be motivated, go read some books, I always tell my kids, go read 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. If you do nothing else as a young kid, you read that and embrace that, you are so far ahead of most other kids out there there. So I don't know. I'm a huge reader. I don't know if you can tell. I reference books all the time, but that's
a good one to
read.
Yeah.
Just read.
Yeah, that's so true.
Always,
you can learn things, young person, or even if you're a little bit older, you always can learn things from other people that have done it that you haven't done it. And so it's like, why would you? You're just getting all their wisdom packaged up in a little, whether it's a podcast like this or other YouTube video or book or whatever your consumption of choice is, just learning and growing, right?
Yeah.
And grit's one of those things. Like, how do you instill that in your kids?
It's not easy.
Because it's
some kids are never gonna have it.
Because they probably grew up a decent life and they probably didn't struggle super hard, you know. And so it's like you want to create this amazing life for your kids, but not too comforting to where they don't have that grit or chip, Because I think that's helpful. And so some of that is like kind of letting them go through a little bit of a struggle or figuring out a problem on their own, right?
I think you gotta let them fail. That's where we've dropped the ball as parents in my generation. I mean, it's just like they don't fail. I mean, everybody gets a trophy.
Right.
They don't keep score. I mean,
and the problem is it's not how the real world works. You don't get a 13th place trophy.
Exactly.
You lose. And then it sucks.
Yeah.
And then you got to pick your ass
back
up.
You get better, right?
And you get better and you grow.
Exactly.
And you go get the first place or second or whatever you end up in.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, there's so much truth in that. Because you get your ass kicked all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And no one goes, hey, Keith, I know you tried hard, but you lost a client. We're still going to give you a check for $10,000.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't quite happen.
Hey, Keith,
like
you
that.
lost a damn client.
Exactly.
Go figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So.
Yeah, it's tough.
Man, Keith, this has been a really awesome conversation. I appreciate you coming in and doing this. Where can people find, connect, and learn more about what you guys do?
Yeah. Go to my site, Eskaygee.com, Eskaygee.com. There's a couple of really good resources on there. One of them, which I would encourage any entrepreneur, any business owner out there, we have a baseline assessment that we do through Pinnacle. It'll tell you where you score kind of in the people, purpose, playbooks, profit, performance. It's really good. It's a 8-page detailed report, tells you some tools that you do. And even if you never talk to me, you will get value out of it, and it'll help you identify things right there. So that's it. Otherwise, you can find me around town. I'm in a couple of networking groups, in Trusted Advisor Council. I can't say enough about that. That's been great. And I don't know. I'm a center of influence, and I love meeting people and talking to good people and helping them. So
cool. Well, we'll link up website, contact information, all that stuff in the show notes. So if you want to get in touch with Keith, work with Keith, you know where to find it. And then we'll be posting a lot of short form clips and content about this conversation. And so you'll get tagged in all that too.
That's fantastic.
But appreciate you doing this. Thanks for coming
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.